Good afternoon. If you're just, yes, welcome to the June Keys Penguin Habitat. I am Sarah. I am lucky enough to work with these guys 5 days a week. So the penguins and I know each other pretty well. Everybody is just a little bit different. Some of them are a little bit more bold. Some of them are a little bit more curious. But when you get to know them, they all do have different personalities. Not two penguins are the same. They range in age here in our colony from about 8 months to 16 years. In their natural habitat, they live to be about 15, maybe 20 years old. But in a protected environment, they can live to be up to 30 to 35. If you see 3 penguins in our habitat that look different than the rest, those are our subadult or juveniles. They're all kind of headed towards the middle of the habitat right now. 2 girls and a boy. If you see a penguin with a bead band on its right flipper, that is a male. Bead band flip on the left flipper, that is a female. Those bead bands just help us tell them apart. Everybody has a different color combination. And if you're out here when I was feeding, you could see I had a clipboard. I was logging every single fish that these guys eat. I'll be feeding them again at 3:45. They do eat 3 times a day, sometimes 2, depending on them. And it is actually the annual migration cycle for these birds. So they're going to spend the next 2 months doing what they're doing now, which is spending almost all of their time in the water. Being a pretty big migratory species, these guys spend about 1,000 to 3,000 miles in about 4 months in the ocean foraging for small fish, stopping along islands out in the open ocean along the way for some rest. But for the most part, they can swim about 90 miles a day trying to look for food. We do believe that's how 4 of our birds came into our care. They were deemed unreleasable and stranded in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It's Robbie, Roxy, Kate, and Avery. Kate and Avery both paired up together, which was very sweet, and Roxy paired up with Floyd, and then eventually Robbie paired up with Patsy. So everybody is paired up. Not in this colony. Some of our birds are a little bit too young, but all those Brazilian rescue birds found a mate pretty quickly. These guys usually find a mate around ages 4 to 5, but I've seen them hang out with each other pretty much from the beginning. So Skipper and Jade, those guys were raised together. They're not related, but they did start spending a lot of time together when they first hit the beach or the June Keys Penguin Habitat, and they were inseparable ever since. So they're a pretty dedicated pair. Roxy and Floyd, though, they've had 7 out of the 13 chicks that have hatched here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. And these guys are part of an SSP, or species survival plan. So genetically, we want them to pair up with certain birds, but we don't make them. That's why the Kate and Avery pair is so cool, because they're both Brazilian rescue birds and they both wanted to be together. And they've actually had 3 chicks, which is pretty cool. But genetically, you want to keep your birds healthy, and the easiest way to do that is to trade birds with different facilities so you bring new genes. So about 2 years ago, we got Admiral Fancy Pants. And Admiral Fancy Pants came to us from San Diego. He doesn't have a mate quite yet, but we're hoping he'll find one of the female penguins that isn't taken. Or you never know, he might be a heartbreaker. These guys do have very big personalities, but right now they're spending almost all of their time in the water because it is their annual migration time. So give them about 2 more months and they'll all be on land hanging out, building nests. In their natural habitat, males arrive about 3 weeks prior to females. They find a nice place, maybe underneath a plant, or they dig a hole with their flippers in their feet. It's pretty fun to watch. And then they find any nesting material that they think is good, maybe kelp, some dried leaves. Here at the aquarium, we use sanitized palm fronds. So when the city trims the palm trees, we collect them, dry them out for a few months, sanitize them, and give them right back to the birds. They actually make their own nests. And everybody's a little bit different. Avery is very monotonous the way he builds his nest. Every single palm frond has to go a certain way. Floyd just likes to kind of throw as much nesting material as he possibly can. So in that case, he'll actually throw the nesting material on top of his mate Roxy. But something's working out because they've had 7 out of the 13 chicks. We have 10 females and 13 males, so we have 23 birds. The way you tell if they're male or female is by a blood test, but if you look at their flippers, males actually have their bead band on their right flipper, females have it on their left. Males tend to be a little bit larger than females. But again, you need to do a blood test to totally be able to determine that. So when we have chicks hatch here at the aquarium, we always guess. Sometimes we guess right.